The Los Angeles Lakers have made multiple surprising moves ahead of what's going to be a very interesting playoff run. The Lakers have made some decisions that have fans up in arms. We're going to break those down and discuss what it means going forward, as well as break down multiple new updates ahead of Saturday's game. It's going to be a crazy next few days. We've covered it all the way through. So before we get into it, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your guys' support has been unbelievable here on the channel. If you want to help us towards our big goal of 19,000 subscribers, about 80% of you who are watching right now, 80 to 90% of you who are watching aren't subscribed. So if you're enjoying it, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It would mean the world to myself, Okeshi, and of course, Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the video today. There's a ton to go over and a bunch of new updates drops surrounding particularly the roster and some interesting moves that they made. Now, I alluded to this a little bit in yesterday's video regarding Maxi Kleber and some things like that, but things have taken a little bit of a turn here. And of course, we're going to dive into a bunch of different things. I want to start with this. So the 15-man roster has been announced, and this is the playoff roster. These will be the guys who are eligible to play in the playoffs. And you have Luka Doncic, Austin Reaves, Hachimura, LeBron, and Jackson Hayes. Very expected, the normal lineup. And then you have DFS, Gabe Vincent, Vanderbilt, Goodwin. All these guys are expected. Shake Milton made it, Markieff Morris. And towards the bottom, you see Maxi Kleber, Bronny James, and Alex Len. Now, Maxi Kleber, I discussed in my video yesterday, there is a good chance that he gets in some sort of series for the Lakers if they go the distance and if they go far. If not, it's going to be up in the air, a little bit surrounding his injury status. And you do have, of course, Bronny James Jr. and Alex Len. And I want to focus on Alex Len a little bit here because he has been nothing short of, disaster for the Lakers this year. Hasn't been good offensively, hasn't been good defensively, can't rebound the ball, can't put the ball in the ocean. It was a disastrous year for Alex Len, and one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen touch the court in his brief time with the Lakers. However, what's a bigger conversation here is the fact that the Lakers specifically left off two players. Now, I saw some of you guys in the comments. I see some of you guys in the comments talking about Trey Jemison and Christian Koloko. Now, the moves I'm talking about is the Lakers not choosing to have those guys on the team. Now, we do, of course, have the schedule as well, which we'll dive into, as well as some other things. But you're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves depth chart here. And I want to bring this up for a second before we dive into some of these surprising moves. You look at their centers. They have Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle. You have Naz Reid. Now, whether or not the Lakers are going to need an actual backup center, hopefully not, unless, Jackson Hayes gets in foul trouble or the, small ball lineup isn't working, which I think it will. But Lakers two-way players Trey Jemison III and Christian Koloko were not converted to full-fledged NBA contracts before the regular season ended, so they are ineligible to play in the playoffs. However, both practiced the team today and will be with the team for the playoff run. So we were expecting one or both of them to get converted here. Of course, we saw Jordan Goodwin get converted from his two-way deal to his full-time standard NBA contract by waiving Cam Reddish, right? Cam Reddish was the one who was waived, but we expected the same thing to follow for one of these two guys. So that way they would be eligible for the playoffs in case someone goes down with an injury or someone has, foul trouble early in the game against, of course, the Timberwolves. Because Rudy Gobert, he's a pretty physical, at times a physical center, but he's a very good defensive center. They decided to not go with it. And we have the reason behind that in a minute, but it is a very interesting decision here. And it's not only a decision that some fans are a little bit confused about, because again, in order for them to be eligible for the playoffs, you might look at this, at first and be like, okay, why are you obviously not taking Alex Len over Christian Koloko, Alex Len over Trey Jemison, even though necessarily Alex Len in theory should be better than, a guy like Christian Koloko, but he just hasn't been. But at the same time, the Lakers couldn't, because of course they're at the point now where in order to have them play in the playoffs, like I mentioned just then, they would have needed to convert them to a standard NBA deal from their two-way contract. And unfortunately, that is something that did not happen. It is not something that the Lakers had in their mind to do, because I'm assuming, and we're going to dive into the reason in a minute, they wanted to just rock with what's been working. And I don't think Alex Len is a big contributor to what's been working. But at the same time, that's what they decided to do. Now, we did get some insight as to why that happened. And again, you can see this here from Dave McMenamin. But a team source told ESPN that the Lakers, quote, liked the chemistry of the group, end quote, during the regular season and wanted to keep that dynamic together for the playoffs. And it makes a little bit of sense. I do understand the premise of it, but the only thing that would have had to happen is waiving Alex Len and then converting a guy like Trey Jemison. I don't necessarily think, and at the same time, we're not privy to the information of being necessarily, we're not on the Lakers, so we don't play alongside those guys. Maybe they all love Alex Len. He's a fantastic teammate, because it seems that, they quoted the chemistry of the group, and the thing that they aforementioned there about the main reason that they wanted to keep Alex Len on the team was because of or at least keep the current team together, maybe not directly Alex Len, was because of the chemistry of the group, which is something that I find a little bit interesting to me, because ultimately I would have probably preferred a guy like Trey Jemison or Christian Koloko, probably Trey Jemison with his physicality against, a Timberwolves team that I'm sure will try to be physical. But ultimately, they decided to rock with the roster that they have. And they, of course, I understand keeping Markieff Morris. Bronny James is always going to bring up some question marks. But on the same time, on the flip side here, if they are very confident in their ability, for Maxi Kleber to be healthy, then it starts to make a bit more sense because he is on the 15-man roster. And of course, he is going to be, he'd be right there. I can see him, if he's healthy, he will probably factor into the rotation pretty early on. And yes, he hasn't had a good past couple seasons, but at the same time, Maxi Kleber, like I mentioned in the video last night, has been a guy that, he is very productive when he's on the court, and he's just stable and steady. And that's what the Lakers need. Alex Len is not stable and he's not steady. Jackson Hayes has been able to provide some of that, steadiness. And it's going to be interesting to see against a Timberwolves team that, again, has some very interesting pieces. They're going to be playing physical. They have Rudy Gobert. At the same time, you also have Julius Randle, who's a bit softer, and he's fairly soft. So it's going to be interesting to see. The bench unit, like I mentioned yesterday, or the video earlier today, is going to be the biggest question mark for the matchup, particularly. But they made some interesting moves, and it definitely surprised some people. Now, let's dive into the schedule a little bit for the games in case you are interested in that. So, of course, the series starts on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota versus the Lakers, of course. And then the Lakers are home for the first two games. We all know how that works. Tuesday, 3 days later, you play at 10 p.m. Eastern. So you have a couple days off. Now you have Sunday off, you have Monday off, and then they go back at it Friday with, on the road against Minnesota. And it's interesting because they have, the average here is 3 days off. We have a couple days, games with 2 days off. I don't think rest is going to be a problem for this. Now, hopefully the Lakers take care of business in, 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. Hopefully, of course, it doesn't get to Sunday. Ideally, we're done by Wednesday. And then, of course, the Rockets and Warriors are going to be going at it. I believe the Warriors are favored in that series, even though they're coming off of a play-in game win against the play-in game win against the Memphis Grizzlies, not the Orlando Magic. But it's going to be interesting. And again, people were dealing with a little bit of injuries. We all suspect Rui Hachimura to be good to go. We know following yesterday's practice, LeBron James was a full participant. Maxi Kleber was a full participant, even though Maxi Kleber, he's not going to be ready for game one. He probably won't be ready for the first series simply because he's still dealing with his broken foot injury, dealing with a bunch of things on that front. But regardless of that, they're in very good shape there. The team's looking good to go, ladies and gentlemen. And you can see this here. Coach Redick spoke out on LeBron following the practice yesterday. LeBron, throughout the year, has been a real leader on that end of the floor for us. I think the buy-in to what we're doing has been good. Everybody is ready to go. They're going to need to play defense against this team because Minnesota is trying to get out and they're going to try to get out and transition a little bit. Of course, they're going to try to have Anthony Edwards be the guy who wins in the series. And Luka Doncic is going to be hopefully the best player on the court. On paper, he's the best player on the court. And hopefully they can go out and get things done against this Minnesota Timberwolves team. And they made some interesting moves, but if Maxi Kleber is coming back soon, then it certainly makes some sense. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on these moves. And it's going to be interesting. One other thing before we wrap up, I saw this tweet here from Trevor Lane. Randall's shooting will matter a ton. Does he continue to be a playoff follower in terms of percentage? Lakers will make him the open man. And I want to bring that up a little bit because the Lakers are going to make Julius Randle beat them offensively. He has been horrible in the playoffs in his career. He is not a good shooter in the playoffs in his career. I don't think he's a great shooter in general, just watching him play basketball. However, he can get hot and he can become dominant, but I think the Lakers match up fairly well. So an X factor in this series, if you're a Timberwolves fan and for the Timberwolves, is going to be Julius Randle. If you're a Lakers fan, of course, you want to shut him down. Just wanted to bring that up. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. A ton of new reports dropping, a ton of new things coming out. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. Cheers.